Welcome back, fight fans. Welcome back. This is another edition of the Q&A with the IBFP. So we're just going to be honest and unbiased, and we're just going to break this down the best we can. And we're going to start off with D. Jefferson. D. Jefferson states that I would like to say, no matter what people see me write in the chat, IBFP, Boxing Nuke is my brother in a sports thing here because he's all about the truth. I appreciate that, D. You were a little long-winded on this post, so we're just going to chop it down a little bit towards your question so we can just make sure that we get this thing taken care of. So now he states, my question is, why is Terence Crawford expectation to take on the best at 147 much less than Errol Spence's when Crawford is supposed to be the real boogeyman? We can't call Crawford the best at 147 and the boogeyman when he's not fighting the best at 147. Horn, Benavidez, or Khan has never been considered to being anywhere close to the best at 147. The best at 147 before Crawford moved up was Thurman, Porter, Garcia, Spence, yet Crawford has fought none of them. Now Crawford is in line to fight Kovalev, but you have so many fighters available that is willing to fight Bud and much better competition than Kovalev. Why is Bud getting a pass, but Spence is ducking Canelo, Ennis, Crawford, and now Ortiz? Question mark. So let me just clear this up for you, D. Jefferson. And I appreciate the comment, brother. And, just for the record, I like to say D's a nice guy. He's a good guy. But I'm going to have to be 100% honest and unbiased on this, D. Friendship aside, at the end of the day, Terence Bud Crawford is the boogeyman of the welterweight division. And he is the best fighter in the welterweight division. And this is why I say he's the best fighter. You're right. He hasn't fought any of those names, but he's the best fighter. And the reason why he's the best fighter is because he's the most accomplished fighter. The guy is a pound-for-pound top 3 fighter in the world. The guy's a former undisputed champion. He didn't get any of those accolades by luck. He's shown elite-level skill sets. He didn't get that by luck. He's proven that. His first fight in the welterweight division, he became a world champion. You can dismiss Jeff Horn all you want, but he beat Manny Pacquiao. Now, many people felt like he robbed Manny Pacquiao. That could be the case. But at the end of the day, him beating Jeff Horn was significant. And the reason why is because Manny Pacquiao did struggle against Jeff Horn. He did struggle against that style and was not interested in rematching Jeff Horn. But Terence Bud Crawford made easy work of Jeff Horn. Jeff Horn never went around on Terence Bud Crawford. And Terence Crawford stopped him and won the championship in his first fight in the welterweight division. So you can't take anything away from Terence Crawford. Because if you consider Manny Pacquiao a top-level fighter in the welterweight division, you have to consider Terence Bud Crawford won as well. And the reason why Terence Crawford hasn't fought Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, Errol Spence is because he called all those guys out, but none of these guys are willing to step in the ring. Keith Thurman, none of these guys were willing to step in the ring. You have to understand that when Terence Crawford, and this just proves my point even more. How about this, D? We'll just take a quote from Errol Spence and Terence Crawford just to be sure that we have the right thing. Terence Bud Crawford states, and I quote, "I got a belt now." Errol Spence, and I quote, "Sean Porter got a belt too." That should explain to you the difference here as to why these guys are not interested in fighting Terence Bud Crawford, because Terence Bud Crawford is the most ducked and avoided man in the welterweight division, and we have to be honest and unbiased. Thanks for your question, D. Emmanuel Moreno states, IBFP, why are casuals in denial about Spence ducking Crawford? IBFP, if Spence moves to 154 and retires, they're not having fought Crawford at 147 and never moving up to 160 or 168 to challenge Canelo, Jacobs, or to a lesser degree Andrade, that will make Spence a lifetime ducker and should be put into the Ducker Hall of Fame. And we'll stop there, Emmanuel, and we have to be honest and unbiased. At the end of the day, Errol Spence Jr. has already stated that he wants to fight Manny Pacquiao, already stated that he wants to fight Keith Thurman. So these are 2 fights that he stated. He stated he wants to fight Danny Garcia. So that's 3 fighters. And he also states that, he wants to unify all the belts before he even comes to Crawford. So that means he has to go see, Manny Pacquiao. So at least for 2019, we know Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Bud Crawford is impossible to make because he's fighting so late in the year and he only fights 1 to 2 times per year. So that means Errol Spence Jr. next fight will be next year. And so that'll take us into 2020. And how long do you think Errol Spence can make the weight? Because at the very best, hoping that everything goes perfectly, Errol Spence could potentially face Terence Crawford at the end of 2020, or he would end up moving up, because you see that Errol Spence Jr. has entertained the thought of possibly fighting Canelo Alvarez, Manny Pacquiao. He's entertained the thought of fighting a Julian J. Rock Williams at 154. So these are 3 different opponents that he's looking at ahead of Terence Bud Crawford. So you have to be honest and unbiased. So that means that it's very likely that Terence Crawford may never get his opportunity to face Errol Spence and get this thing right. we have to be honest as to why these people do this. He also states, lastly, why do people say that Kovalev is the weakest champion at 175? And we're just going to stop there because I have to be honest. Sergey Kovalev has fought the best competition at 175. He's fought at Andre Ward. Many people feel like he won that first fight against Andre Ward. Looking at the first fight against Andre Ward, I thought Sergey Kovalev won that fight. In the rematch, I thought Sergey Kovalev lost by knockout. But even then, I think that he, considering Sergey Kovalev, I thought he did enough to win the first fight against Andre Ward. I think Sergey Kovalev, has proven to be a multiple-time world champion. He's unified titles before. I have no problem with Sergey Kovalev. I think it's an elite-level type of challenge, a legacy-making fight. And the only reason why people say he's the weakest champion at 175 pounds is because it's an attempt to discredit anything that has to do with Canelo Alvarez. But let's keep it going. The Real 184 South states, if Terence Crawford himself on Twitter has said Errol Spence is not ducking him, why are you pushing that narrative? How could Spence be ducking Crawford when he has a unification fight with Porter? And I appreciate the question, Real 184 South. And so let me just be a real one with you. And so the realness is, Terence Crawford on his own Twitter, he was asked, was Errol Spence ducking him? He said no. Now, let me give you an example. Anthony Joshua was asked the same question. Was Deontay Wilder ducking you? He said no. Deontay Wilder was asked to reverse hand. He said yes. AJ was ducking him. Just because a fighter says that no one is ducking them does not mean they're not ducking them. That is the most ridiculous thing I've heard. You have to understand that fighters that are trying to make fights are not going to be disrespectful to the other fighter that they're desperately seeking a fight with. Terence Bud Crawford is desperately seeking a fight with Errol Spence Jr. So much so that he walked up on Errol Spence Jr., said, I got a belt now. You asked me to get a belt, I got a belt. Errol Spence said, well, Sean Porter got a belt too. Who put the roadblock there? Errol Spence or Terence Crawford? You have to be honest and unbiased, because Mikey Garcia didn't have a belt. So he didn't say Mikey Garcia needs to have a belt before he moves up. But he put that stipulation on Terence Crawford, but he didn't put it on Mikey Garcia. You have to be honest and unbiased. And the facts are the facts. And the fact is that he's ducking Terence Bud Crawford. You can't look at what someone says on social media or to fans just because they're trying to make a fight. Terence Bud Crawford and Anthony Joshua are not the disrespectful type. Deontay Wilder turned down $100 million to avoid Anthony Joshua. But we know he did it because it was a duck. We know what a duck is. We can't change facts. Errol Spence Jr. said out of his own mouth that he wants the easy road. There's no two ways around it. So it's not a narrative. I'm pushing the truth, brother. But let's keep it going. Bam Bam states, I see David Benavidez as unbeatable at 168. What do you think? I think David Benavidez is one of the best fighters at 168, and he's going to be one of the hardest fighters to beat. I think it's going to take a truly great fighter to beat David Benavidez at 168. He's still young. He's still somewhat of a prospect, but he has dimensions, power, height, reach, speed. He has pretty much everything that you want in a fighter, and he's going to be a huge and major problem. So I will say that David Benavidez could be potentially unstoppable, but it might be too soon to tell. Thanks for the question. The next question comes from Johnny Granillo. He said, Puro Pinchi IBFP, do you think Vergil Ortiz will be bigger fighter than Canelo Alvarez? I appreciate that, Johnny. Salute, my brother. I think that Virgil Ortiz has the potential to become a bigger name than Canelo Alvarez, but as of right now, it's way too early to tell. Virgil Ortiz has the skill, he has the frame, and he keeps growing and progressing fight by fight, and he seems to have a type of power that's unheard of at this early in your career, where he's just knocking guys out that's never been knocked out. And I look at his punches as the touch of death, because when he turns it on, he's stopping guys that have never been stopped. Virgil Ortiz is a monster, and I'm not gonna go and say, oh, Virgil Ortiz this is that. His boxing skill is backing it up. He's not just some strong guy who walks in reckless. He's a guy that thinks about things, times things, works on things, and improves fight by fight, and has elite level power that I'm already seeing. At this point, I'm going to call it. I think Virgil Ortiz is going to be a superstar. I think he's going to be an elite level fighter. I think once he gets the opportunity to showcase that in bigger and better fights, but he's passed literally every single test. Even Chris Mannix stated that, hey, Virgil Ortiz is the best young boxing prospect in the game today. I think he's ready to take on bigger challenges already. Thanks for the question, brother. The next one comes from Adrian Felix Regis Prograis. Is that a duck if he doesn't fight Taylor next? Will he fight him in the future? I hope so, because I think Regis Prograis, if he fights Josh Taylor, then there can be an undisputed fight with Jose Ramirez. At the end of the day, I think these are the fights that need to happen. This is how superstars are made. I don't think that Regis Prograis is looking to duck Josh Taylor, but the writing is on the wall. So we have to see how this situation plays out. Regis Prograis suing them, saying he's not going to be fighting Josh Taylor, and the World Boxing Super Series saying that fight is going to happen. They have a signed contract. So we'll see how this plays out ultimately. Hopefully the fight comes off and we can avoid all this mess. Let's keep it going. Jose Yepes states, Benavidez versus Durrell. Who you got? Let's not forget Benavidez is still a prospect too. I agree, Jose. This is going to be a tremendous fight. It's going to be Jose Benavidez. Biggest fight of his career on a big stage, on a pay-per-view fight. He has an opportunity to impress a lot of people and showcase how good he really is. And I think Jose Benavidez will do that. I'm going to pick Jose Benavidez to win by knockout. The next question comes from Jessica Cardenas, and she states, who wins between Teofimo and Vergil Ortiz? At this point, I have to be honest, and I think Virgil Ortiz stops Teofimo. I think Teofimo has all the potential in the world. I think he can give Virgil Ortiz some problems, but I think that we've seen that Teofimo has struggled with guys who are taller than him and who have height and reach over him. And I already know that Virgil Ortiz has a height and reach advantage. He's extremely powerful, and we know that Teofimo can get hit. And Virgil Ortiz is just a natural, overall, bigger, stronger fighter. I don't even see it being a close contest. I think Virgil Ortiz stops him easy. But let's keep it going. Victor states, what welterweights do you think can stop Virgil Ortiz and why? Now, when I look at it like this, I look at Virgil Ortiz. As of right now, I think Terrence Crawford might be a bit too much for Virgil Ortiz. I think by the time Errol Spence opens up for a fight, I think that could be a reasonable fight. A lot of people seem to think on one of our most recent videos is that we're saying that Errol Spence and Virgil Ortiz needs to happen now. No, we understand that Errol Spence Jr. has Sean Porter now, and then he probably has another fight or two next year. But at the end of next year, the potential is there that you could potentially see a huge money fight between Virgil Ortiz and Errol Spence. And I think giving Virgil Ortiz another year of development towards the end of 2020, I think he could be ready for an Errol Spence, because this is a Virgil Ortiz who's shown elite level skills. This is a Virgil Ortiz who's shown elite level power. And if he keeps on this track for another year, at the end of next year, I can definitely see him being ready to face an Errol Spence Jr. As far as stops him right now, I would just say Terrence Bud Crawford may be too much. And at this point, Errol Spence may be too much. Virgil Ortiz is going to need another year under his belt before he's ready for those type of challenges. But I think he can do it. I think he can be a problem and a menace in this division just because of his sheer size, power, and boxing skill and IQ alone. Virgil Ortiz is going to be a star one day. Adil says, I have 4 questions. In your opinion, who was the better fighter, Sugar Ray Leonard or Marvin Hagler? I'm going to go with Sugar Ray Leonard. And who's the greatest fighter you've ever seen? He's talking about how skillful and dominant. I'm going to go with, at this point, I'm going to have to say either Floyd Mayweather or Pernell Whitaker. Do you think people are severely underestimating Sean Porter in the Spence fight? I think so. I think Sean Porter has a good chance at an upset in this fight. But if Spence is truly the type of fighter that his fanboy says he is, he's going to go in there, dominate Sean Porter, and stop him within 6 rounds. If he does not do that and Sean Porter gives him fits all night, then we understand exactly where Spence is and how good or not good he is on that spectrum. So this is a huge fight for both fighters. I respect Sean Porter's skill, and I'm expecting a difficult fight. But Errol Spence said he's going to make easy work of him, so let's see how good he does. Last question, what are your thoughts on David Benavidez in his position at 168? Keep up the great videos, by the way. Thank you, Adil. And I think David Benavidez is a special fighter, and I think he can be extremely special at 168 and at 175. I could see a super fight with Canelo and David Benavidez down the road, but we'll see. Once again, this concludes the part 1 of the Q&A with the IBFP. Please share, like, and you must absolutely subscribe.